The Galactic Empire, which is well known in the stars for its strategic thinking and diplomatic skill, had established its dominion on the basis of strategic bargaining and supreme power for centuries. They broadened their scope through agreements, and, when required, demonstrations of power that didn't give much space for opposition. In their perspective, the equilibrium of force and diplomacy were the final instruments for keeping the galaxy in line. Their fleets and technologies were enormous, sophisticated, and their standing unopposed. Each species they came across, ultimately, submitted to the will of the Empire, favoring the safety of dominance over the disorder of opposition. On the outer border of human space, a tiny colony thrived on the planet Haven. It was a tranquil, resource-rich world, and with a few thousand residents, the Haven residents led modest lives far from the aggressive core of the Empire. They raised the land and cultivated it. Their households conducted business with neighboring systems, and the concept of war was as far away from them as the central realms of the Empire. The children of the Empire played in the fields. Farmers and twin sons looked after crops that would provide light for colonies. Years ago, Haven had served as a representation of humanity's adaptability and tenacity, a frontier where life had established itself. The Empire perceived Haven differently than they did other colonies. It was an outpost, a presence strategically positioned that could either serve as a springboard for more growth or a danger to be defeated. After chilly discussions, the Council of the Empire decided that humanity had to be quickly shown where it belonged. An attack on Haven would make it clear either Earth would submit or face annihilation. Without holding back, the Empire executed their plan. In the Empire's long history, such strategies had always produced the intended outcomes. Empires were founded on fear and respect, and the Empire was committed to making sure humanity learned. The assault was unexpected for both sides. Out of hyperspace, Imperial ships appeared, their sleek black hulls piercing the emptiness. Haven's primordial defensive mechanisms couldn't compete with the Empire's sophisticated internal technology. At times, the colony's overhead skies were brimming with flames as orbital strikes rained down. Fields collapsed, and structures were torn apart. Fear swept through the colonists, who had never witnessed conflict before. They gathered in basements, trying to find security, but there was none to be found. The earth beneath them trembled. The cries of the less fortunate echoed in the distance. Within minutes, the destruction was total. The flourishing colony was now reduced to burning remains, and the reverberations of the Empire's terror were clear. The opposition was futile, and the only route to earthly survival was to submit. News of the devastation spread quickly across Haven. Whispers turned into frenetic transmissions from neighboring colonies as the full scope of the assault became clear. For a brief moment, collective shock overtook the galaxy as images of burning. Houses and ruined fields flooded screens. It was a clear reminder of the fragility of peace. But the suffering soon gave way to fury, and fury would settle the matter. Humanity, once satisfied with their place, now demanded justice in the galaxy. The assault on Haven wasn't merely an attack on a far-off colony, it was an assault on humanity itself. The leaders of Earth met, their faces grim as they reviewed the footage from Haven. There was no space for compromise. The Empire had demonstrated its capacity for diplomacy, but humanity's true colors would now reply in kind. The decision was immediate and unanimous. A message was broadcast throughout the stars, calling every fleet, soldier, and resource to action. This was no longer about defending a far-off colony. This was about survival. Humanity would not submit. Humanity would fight back. The captain of the human fleet, a veteran of numerous conflicts, was entrusted with leading Earth's forces. No speeches, no grand declarations, only action. Ships were armed and orders given. The war engines began to turn, and humanity's fury was about to be unleashed. The Empire had made a grave miscalculation. They underestimated humanity's resilience, and soon They would learn the true cost of their arrogance. As Earth's warships powered up, it was clear. The message was clear and ready to be sent. Humanity would not negotiate. The Empire had started this war, but humanity would finish it. In the headquarters of Earth's military, the commander, standing before a massive holographic screen, focused on the enemy fleet's position. He knew this was just the beginning. Humanity's counterattack would be swift, brutal, and decisive. The Empire had no idea what was coming. The fleet, retooled for war, assembled above Earth. Massive ships armed to the teeth with weapons beyond the Empire's comprehension formed a formidable force. These ships, sleek and heavy, with destroyers and carriers, were powered by technology that had been in the works for years. The Empire had not anticipated the speed and scale of humanity's response. Within days, Earth's military infrastructure was fully mobilized. Factories, once producing goods for everyday life, were now retooled for war. Workers and engineers labored tirelessly to produce advanced weapons and unmanned aerial vehicles. It was a machine of war unlike anything the Empire had seen. When the first salvo hit the Imperial fleet, it was with surgical precision. Kinetic bombs tore through the Empire's defenses, shattering their shields and systems. The Empire's fleet, once mighty, was decimated in minutes. What little resistance they managed was quickly neutralized by electromagnetic pulses that shut down their systems. The few ships that managed to flee did so in panic, with no time to react to humanity's overwhelming strike. The news of the attack spread like wildfire through the Empire, creating confusion and fear. The Empire, once invincible, was now faced with the harsh reality of their underestimation of humanity. The shock waves from the battle rippled through the Empire's ranks. Leaders who had once been so sure of their superiority were now scrambling to reevaluate their tactics. The human commander knew this was only the beginning. The Empire had been struck, but this war would not be won in one battle. Humanity's resolve was unwavering, and they would continue the fight until the Empire was no more. The battle for Haven was over, but the war had just begun. The Empire was starting to fall apart because desperation compelled the Empire to start a counteroffensive as a final step, an endeavor to restore their lost dignity. They threw everything they had into the territory, into the assault, in an attempt to overpower the human forces by virtue of their overwhelming numbers and brute force. But humanity was prepared. The commander, in human form, was expecting such a move and had their troops ready to counter each strategy the Empire used. Ambushes appeared, traps were set, and the fleets of the Empire were outwitted at every stage. The engagement ended in catastrophe for the dozen lost Empire vessels, whole battalions destroyed before they could even confront the Empire's enemy. Desperation simply made them more reckless. Rash choices resulted in disastrous outcomes. What was intended as a reclamation turned into a massacre, thereby discouraging the already beleaguered Imperial forces installed on both sides. But as the Empire's defeats pushed them farther into dejection, humanity's determination only increased. More resilient than any dead soldier, every wrecked ship was considered a sacrifice for the benefit of all, a step towards safeguarding the future of humanity on Earth. The commander personified this determination, leading their forces with the resolve to win. They recognized that this conflict was about more than survival. It was about communicating that humanity in the galaxy wouldn't be defeated. Attempting to do so would be met with destruction. The Empire's army diminished, and so did their expectations of triumph. Internal disputes had afflicted their leadership, and it seemed insignificant compared to the destruction they had to contend with. The few surviving leaders who had pushed for diplomatic measures were now shut down by the terrible truth that the talking time had long since passed. For those who had demanded total war, they were now compelled to face the unpleasant reality that they had undervalued their adversary, and now they were paying the cost. The Empire, once the undisputed monarch of enormous swaths of the galaxy, was now a ghost of its former self. Their warships had been destroyed, and their areas were becoming smaller with each passing day. Throughout that time, the human commander pressed relentlessly. The quest for complete victory had taken a toll on humanity, but with each conflict, their determination only grew. This was their battle to win, and they would see it through to the end. At the Empire's center, it dawned on them that they weren't just battling to win. They were battling to survive. Even survival appeared to be a far-off dream. The Empire had committed a deadly mistake in undervaluing humanity, and now they were both paying the ultimate price. Both parties knew that the upcoming conflict would determine the destiny of the galaxy. The Empire pounded the galaxy desperately, dragging fleets of ships and soldiers. They conscripted citizens from remote areas into service. Having depleted their supplies, they launched a bid of all or nothing to recover their lost domination. All resources were directed toward this endeavor, each ship equipped with teeth. The feeling of an approaching catastrophe was evident, but accompanied by a dismal resolve that this would be their final stand. They would engage in combat with all their remaining possessions. The preparations were just as rigorous for the human commander. They examined each element with great care. The strategy they suggested was audacious, depending on a risky move that could end the conflict in a single decisive attack. The commander knew that despite its weaknesses, the Empire had a strong fleet, and they would have to take advantage of every vulnerability. The plan included enlisting the Empire in a meticulously planned trap, so bold that failure would mean not only losing, but humanity's demise. The combat itself was scheduled to occur in an area of space where the pull of a dying star's gravity produced a dangerous atmosphere. Desperate for victory, the Empire took the bait, thinking they had the humans cornered. They reduced the size of the human fleet, but the human ships were more nimble and moved into place. The commander's plan depended on the accuracy of their power and the element of surprise. They had